Good morning. My name is Jennifer Wistrand, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Kennan Institute. Thank you for joining us for a discussion of the emigration of Belarusian and Russian academics and institutions. Before I introduce our guests, I'd like to remind you that you can stay up to date on the Kennan Institute's activities by visiting the Kennan Institute's website and subscribing to our blogs and podcasts and other publications. Today's guests are Krzysztof Rybinski, Andrei Zorin, and Dmitry Rudenkin. Krzysztof Rybinski is the rector of the European Humanities University in Vilnius. Dr. Rybinski is an internationally renowned economist. From 2004 to 2008, he served as the deputy governor of the National Bank of Poland. In 2007 to 2008, he was a member of the Polish Financial Services Authority, as well as a World Bank alternate governor for Poland. From 2010 to 2015, Dr. Rybinski was the rector of Stula University in Warsaw. And from 2015 to 2018, he was the rector of Narfos University in Almaty. Andrei Zorin is professor of Russian at the University of Oxford. Dr. Zorin previously taught at the Russian State University for Humanities, the Moscow School of Social Economic Sciences, and a number of US universities, including Harvard and Stanford. Dr. Zorin has published more than 200 works on Russian literature and cultural history. Additionally, Dr. Zorin is on the board of International Theodor Shanin Foundation in Lithuania and the board of the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Sciences in Montenegro. Finally, Dmitry Rudenkin is a Russian sociologist and anti-war activist. His current research focuses on academic emigration among communities of Russian-speaking immigrants in Armenia and Georgia. He has more than 10 years of research and teaching experience at Russian universities and institutes. After leaving Russia in 2022, he joined Academic Bridges Lab, which is a platform for anti-war Russian academics. After our guests speak, there's going to be a question and answer period. If you'd like to ask a question, please submit your question via the Q&A function on Zoom, and please include your name and affiliation when doing so. Finally, today's discussion is being recorded. So I'd like to begin our discussion first by focusing on some questions with Dr. Rybinski and Dr. Zorin, and then I will move to some questions for Dr. Rudenkin. So maybe first starting with you, Dr. Rybinski, could you give us some background, what prompted the university for which you're currently the rector to relocate? When did it relocate? Why did it choose the location it did? And, why did it choose to reestablish itself in the way that it did, take the form?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. European Humanities University was established in 1992 in Belarus as a private university. And very quickly, it gained the prominence of the premier university in the country, including that some children of prominent communists were attending this university that offered European democratic civic values-based education. It was so good. While over time, Lukashenko, the autocrat of Belarus, the head of the regime, understood that while he enjoys the support of the old generation, the future support is based on the young generation. So he started to put a tight grip on universities, and obviously the EHU, European Humanities University, was the one that was most anti-Lukashenko. So after several attempts to change the rector, to control the university, when he met with the refusal, he personally, as he said in the media, took the decision to close the university in 2004. So university was closed in 2004, so it had to relocate. License was revoked. So the process of relocation took about a year until 2005, and it relocated to Vilnius, Lithuania. And I spoke to several people, and then there are different stories. What factors were the most important? So I just mentioned the two. Or maybe three. One, Lithuania Prime Minister offered direct letter of support and guarantee that the country will support the university. But also from Soviet times, there were strong links in humanities or sciences between Belarus and Lithuania. So these links remained, and they proved very important in actually looking at, with whom we can cooperate, where to relocate. And then, of course, geographical proximity was very important. I mean, it's very close from Minsk to Vilnius. It is like 20-minute flight, basically, and 3 hours drive. Not nowadays when the border is controlled, but then. So all these factors were very important, and that's why university relocated to Vilnius and not to Warsaw or Krakow or some other city in Poland. These are the main reasons. The question why it reestablished itself the way it did, there was no other choice. There was a fight for survival, basically. So the choice was to survive or not. So basically, there were not different strategies being discussed, which the day after day fight for survival. And when first bachelor students again got the diplomas at that time in Vilnius in October 2005, was a big relief that university can function again and can provide this good education to students. So that's in short what happened, why it happened, and now university continues to operate for 20 years in exile, which proves that it was the very right decision to relocate to Vilnius.
Well, thank you. That was fascinating. I think a lot of people too are going to be astounded at the length of time, right, that this has been going on. So thank you for that. Dr. Zoran, could I ask you this similar questions that I just asked Dr. Dubinsky? Now, can you talk about the relocation, your institute, when, why, and kind of the form it took, and to the extent possible, can you compare, contrast with what Dr. Dubinsky just mentioned?
Oh, yes, very much so, because the whole story was very different. Yeah, much more chaotic and improvised. Basically, I cooperated for a long time with many colleagues in the so-called Moscow School for Social and Economic Sciences, which was opened in 1995 by Theodor Shanin, the charismatic visionary scholarly educator. Yeah, and it was one of the first independent universities in Russia, in post-Soviet Russia, which later, it started as an MA university, later developed in a full-scale university with a added BA, mostly based on the liberal arts program. The attacks on the school started in late 2010s, early 2020s, before the start of the war. Yeah, and there was the police investigation. The BA liberal arts program was closed down on the accusation that it breaks the constitutional rights of the young Soviet people for education. And after the war, we found out that a significant amount of the former leaders of the school and also a lot of professors, significant number of the students have left the country. And we were not alone. A huge number of very great scholars have left the country, and more hundreds and thousands, and more importantly, a lot of students or people who are interested in getting their education also left. So we started to figure out what we can do. And as our school, Theodor Shanin passed away at 2019, the school was unofficially called Shaninka. It was known as Shaninka. That was its more or less established name, though never official one. So we decided what we can do to go on. And by April 2022, like a month and a half after the war started, we came up with a vision, which was that we should start a new university based on the traditions of Shaninka, continuing Shaninka tradition, but which should be different, rather different in scope and dimensions, which would be first of all, we didn't want one more. There were enough of online educational programs. What we really wanted was a university with accredited, certified, giving degree giving. But secondly, we believed that it should not be located in one place, but should rather be a confederation of the different programs, that is a diaspora university, matching the structure of the diaspora. And but brought in the general umbrella of the foundation, which we provisionally thought called Theodor Shannon Foundation. We were lucky to have a huge support of Theodor's widow, Professor Shulamit Roman, who very strongly supported the whole idea. And so we started working on it. And by now, right in this fall, 1.5 years after we had our first discussions, the first Faculty of Liberal Arts and Sciences started working in Montenegro, currently on a contract with the University of Montenegro. But right now, these days, immediately this moment, it is in the process of accreditation. So we hope that by the new year, it will, well, thanks God, it will be accredited. And we'll have this program already functioning. It is already functioning, but already functioning as an accredited university or faculty. And then by now, we already managed to register Theodor Shannon's International Foundation in Vilnius, which was also in Vilnius, which was a hometown of Theodor. He was born there. He loved his city. He wrote a lot about it. And also it helped us a lot to get a support for the idea of bringing the name and the brand. He had a unique fate, bringing him to his hometown. And we have other plans. It's not easy, but we are in the process of trying to run a sort of, as we called it ourselves, the distributed diaspora university, which with the natural center in Vilnius, where the foundation is now located.
Thank you. This is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, especially the differences between these two structures. And you actually, Dr. Zoran, set up the next question I want to ask both you and Dr. Rubinsky. You started talking about accreditation, and I'm wondering if both of you can answer, in turn, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered over the years with your respective, whether it's accreditation challenges, recruitment challenges, and that can be both recruitment of professors, recruitment of students. Are there financial challenges? Dr. Zoran, you mentioned like having a diaspora university, right? You're crossing the state lines then. How about identity challenges as well? In terms of, what's the identity of the university, of the students who graduate from there? Do they encounter any conflicts potentially, with other students when applying for jobs? So any of the challenges, each of you, if you could just speak to that.
Yes, thank you for this question. Before challenges, let me just briefly say where we are now, because this sets a context for the challenges. So we are a brick university. So thanks to the Lithuanian government, we have nice headquarters right in the center of the old town. It's a beautiful building, a 17th century monastery building, and we're expanding to two different locations in the city. We offer education to 1,500 students from 10 countries, but 80% come from Belarus. So these Belarusian roots are very strong, and more than half of the faculty is from Belarus. So 20 years later, after operating 20 years in Vilnius, still you can see this is a very Belarusian university, which is actually reflected in a special law in Lithuania, law on university in exile, which is a specific law dedicated to our university. So we are recognized as a university in exile, but at the same time, that brings in the challenges. We are operating as a typical EU university under the Lithuanian law, so all the standards apply to us. So while at the same time, we would work towards our mission, which is building civil society in Belarus. In the region, which requires a lot of focus on the third mission. At the same time, all the research standards apply to us. So to retain the license or to be recognized, we have to publish as much as any typical university in Lithuania. So this is a major challenge that we managed to cope with. We're about to get accreditation for 7 years now. We just finished the institutional accreditation with very good results. But it brings significant challenges. But I think the biggest one that I found when I came 6 months ago was identity, which is there's still ongoing debate at the university. Are we a Belarusian university in exile, or are we a European Union university or Lithuanian university? And this debate is ongoing on every level, so including the governing board level, the management level, and faculty administration level. And 20 years later, this debate is very lively, very intense, and actually it doesn't seem to be ending soon. So I believe this might be typical for many other universities as well in exile, which are now many more than before. But we still having this challenge ahead of us. And there are many more, of course. One related to it is the Belarusian language. So we know that there's a very intense process of Russification of Belarus. A nation without its own language may have difficulty with its own identity. So we should offer instruction in Belarusian language, but at the same time, we are a European university and we won't have international body of students. So how at the same time have a course in Belarusian and have students from Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and some other countries? So we're planning to do this, but it's a challenge. It's not as simple as, let's have English. No, it's not as simple. So it's a challenge. Another challenge that you mentioned is finance. This is typical model, I believe, for many universities in exile. Students and faculty coming from poor country to richer country. So Lithuania is 3 times as rich in GDP per capita than Belarus. So we have Lithuanian costs and students from Belarus paying tuition, which they cannot afford it. So this model requires strong donor support. And without donor support, Lithuanian, Nordic Council of Ministers, many American institutions, Nordic countries, Sweden with Norway, Iceland, Estonia, Netherlands, and many more in the past, you wouldn't be able to survive. So the crucial factor is the ability of the institution to secure lasting donor support, because without it, tuition-only revenue will not be enough to survive. And that was so far so good. We managed to survive for 20 years, and donors are with us. And then, of course, recruitment challenges. We are able to recruit students from Belarus. It's more and more difficult, and Lukashenko is making it more difficult. For example, no longer studying at international university abroad gives you a release from the military service in Belarus. So boys, if they leave Belarus and study with us, they may have difficulties going back to Belarus. So the regime tries to make it more difficult. And if they close the border one day, because border can be closed from both ways, by European Union, if Belarus becomes more hostile towards Ukraine, or by Belarus, they will put a lot of challenges on us because students won't be able to cross the border to study in Vilnius. So there are numerous challenges that this is my 3rd time being a rector, as you mentioned, and I have not met these challenges and so many in my previous jobs. So this is really a challenging place, but we believe that the mission that we have of building civil society in Belarus and having so many young Belarusians with us, it's so rewarding that I think we overcome all these challenges. We continue to function for 20 more years, at least.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Rabinsky. Actually, you ended by what I wanted to kind of ask you is if you saw any similarities or differences between the 3 rectorships you've had, but you just summarized it right there. Dr. Lauren, can you similarly, what challenges have you encountered? And you had started to speak about those a bit.
Yeah, most of the challenges are the same, but also different based on our different structure and history. Accreditation is an enormous challenge, especially that trying to do it in different countries. Now we're focusing on 2, but we have other plans. You deal with different bureaucracies, different ways of accreditation. Each country has its own requirements and so on, and our team is small. Yeah, and this is an enormous challenge. We try to manage it. We hope we'll manage it, but it is a huge challenge. Financial challenge is, of course, even bigger. It is huge, and we are trying to do the best we can. We are fundraising with some success already, and we are very grateful to the donors. But what we managed to secure by now is, of course, rather small compared to our needs. But we are hopeful. We are hopeful we made a huge progress in a year's time. So we are hopeful in that respect. As for the recruitment challenge, I don't think we have a slide. That's especially in professors, we have thousands of people. When Montenegro's colleagues announced that they are starting the university, they got in one day, I think, 130 applications in just the first day. So that's not an issue. The issue is that we have such an enormous choice of first-class scholars that will not be able to accommodate, I don't know, 20% of them. So recruitment is not, I don't think, we'll see, but I don't think that the recruitment of students is going to be a huge problem because the diaspora is huge, interest is huge. There was a sociological polling among the different diasporas, and what they say, their first need, and basic, of course, is legalization. In the countries they are, and their second need is formal education, schools and universities. So here I think we will be competitive. But the identity, I don't think it's so much a challenge for us, but it is a problem, of course. And we believe that no one of us has a silver bullet, and we don't know, or crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. And we really want to prepare our students for the global labor market. Our main teaching language, well, the only teaching language will be English. We think that 17 or 80% of our courses are supposed to be taught in English. But at the same time, we believe that exactly for the ability to work on the global market, having your identity and preserving your identity is an enormously important issue. So we really want to do a bit in Russian, to allow students, to keep their identity, to identify themselves, to be within their peers. And we think here the appeal for the students is also very big. And we actually planned the education in all the programs we are running. In Montenegro is already that way, to be trilingual. They also do the language of the native country where they're located, which are going to be different. They already started to learn Montenegrin. But that is, of course, mostly on the level of learning language and the very basics of culture and history, not the real educational program, because they're not prepared for that. But otherwise, it would be significant, predominantly in English and a bit in Russian to keep the identity in education. But we also do not plan at early stages it's going to be a diaspora university, we think, but we hope to be able to expand to East and South European dimensions, to the and so on and so forth. So we are thinking basically about global or international university with some peculiar local and diaspora colorings. That's how we see the identity issue.
Thank you both. And I want to, we'll circle back to talking about these identity issues, because again, it's so fascinating that you each raised, on the one hand, you're raising different facets of identity. And so I want to circle back to that. But first, I want to turn over to Dr. Rudenkin, who's been very patiently waiting, and ask a few questions about the initiative that you have pursued. Before that, though, to our audience members, in about 10, 12 minutes or so, we'll open it up for audience questions. So just a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please do submit it via the Q&A function on Zoom. And once I start to see a sufficient number of questions there, we'll start taking audience questions. So for Dr. Rudenkin, can you talk about your initiative, Academic Bridges Lab? Similar to the questions I asked your colleagues, when was it established? By whom was it established? What's the goal or objective of it?
All right. Probably first of all, I need to clarify that it is not an organization. It is not an institution, at least now. It is an initiative group of Russian scholars with anti-war convictions. We have a very diverse areas of activity, but probably I can say that the most important activity of our team is organization of online conferences and seminars for Russian-speaking scholars in exile. So the mission of our project, probably explaining its name, is creation of bridges between Russian scholars in Russia, Russian scholars in Armenia, in the United States, and everywhere in the world. Our mission is to provide them an opportunity to present their current research, to speak free about their activity, about their outcomes. And probably an important and quite a funny fact about our project is that it appeared mostly occasionally, because no one was going to create an initiative group. We didn't know each other. There are 7 people of our team, and we met each other only when we started to work together. In August 2022, as far as I remember, one girl wrote a message in the Telegram chat of the ARC project and offered an insane idea. Let's organize an online conference for Russian scholars in exile. About 20 people decided to support this idea, and 7 of them left. Here we are, the Academic Bridges team. We organized this conference. It happened in January 2023. It stimulated a real interest of our colleagues, because we were shocked when we received about 1,000 applications from people who wanted to listen for it. And we decided that we can do something more for our colleagues. We decided that it was possible to make some important things. So now we work, now we function, and we provide online seminars and conferences without any sponsorship right now, and without any organizational support.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I'm glad that you clarified that it's not, unlike your colleagues, it's not an institution right now, it's more of a platform and network. And that leads me now, I'd like to ask the question of all 3 of you, and you can each jump in when you want. Are academics such as yourselves who've helped establish either institutions of higher education in exile or networks of academics in exile, are you developing a model for other academics who might currently be facing comparable repression in their home countries? And if so, what does that model include? And Dr. Zoran, you started to kind of hint at that a little bit, this idea of, global universities. But for each of you, is there a model out there? Are you following a model? Are you working with others to kind of develop some type of model?
Let me answer. I think our story, the EHU story, is a story of successful story is establishing a full-scale university and able to securing support and actually able to move the entire community from Belarus to Lithuania, because this is like many both faculty and students, administration was relocated and rebuilt the university. But in terms of having a model, I would say this is still ongoing process. I wouldn't be able to say this is a list of checkboxes. That's what you have to do to establish yourself successfully. Every story is different. So, for example, if you are moving to a not too distant country, that is culturally similar, and it's not 5 hours flight. That's a different model than when you're actually relocating academics across the globe and scatter them across the globe. So I believe we are example that it is possible to with the proper support, financial support, and proper community, to reestablish yourself quickly. I mean, 1 year it's relatively quickly in a different location, start full-scale operations, and last for 20 years. And this is a story of lasting operation, despite ups and downs. The university even once lost accreditation. It was like 7 years ago. There were many episodes, but it was a lasting operation. And then it's so successful that when we ask our community, faculty members and students, what should be done when Belarus becomes a democratic country, vast majority, I mean, north of 90% of respondents were saying, keep campus in Vilnius and have a second one in Minsk. So it's not like go back home. So we spent 20 years or 30 years in Vilnius and go back to Minsk. No, it's so valuable to have this operation abroad that the future should be to go back home with one leg, but keep one leg abroad, because it offers a great value to be in European Union, to have international exposure, have intercultural environment, and so on. So I believe this is a model, but basically a path. So to run away from oppressive regime, build a strong institution that exists, but in the future you do keep your presence in a foreign country and go back home together. So that's basically a path, but I wouldn't say I have a model and clear solutions. I can talk about the risks, which to avoid, how to manage them, but I don't think we're going to speak about the model yet. This is maybe 20 years is still too early.
Yeah, it is incredible though, right? A 20-year journey, and it's still, it isn't just incredible. Dr. Zoran, Dr. Rudenkin, can you?
The first half of your question is easy, because we're definitely not following any model, because it doesn't exist. Yeah, we are trying to invent something on the spot. Whether it can serve as a model, arguably we're not that ambitious, but we'll be happy if somebody will follow in this or that respect, because the problems of diasporas are growing. The world morphs into the different diasporas. Yeah, and so if whatever we do will be useful for anyone else, it will make us incredibly happy. But of course, Krzysztof just said, that they're in the early stage. Yeah, and we are just leaving the embryo stage. Yeah, we were on this stage. So speaking is vastly premature. In this count, maybe 40 years early. Yeah, but we're trying the best we can. And also, I fully agree with what was said about if somehow the situation in Russia will change dramatically at some time. The thing which will be needed enormously is having an international Russian university. Yeah, the need of it will be huge. That is the question I deal more the time. And you will spend a lot of time. You will not succeed quickly, and then the situation in Russia can change. I think if God allows it will change, then the need in our university will multiply tenfold. Yeah, as some part of connection between the mainland and the diaspora and the world and the global education and so on and so forth. So that would be a highly welcome development for everyone, including for the perspective for this new institution worldwide, in different parts and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Dr. Rudenkin, similarly, can you? I mean, as yours is in even shorter time frame, so I'm sure you're going to say there can't be a model yet. But are you guys following anything? Are trying to develop a model?
I'm not sure it's possible to speak about particular models in current times, because, well, let's be honest, the situation is very difficult for Russian-speaking community of scientists. We're trying to survive. We're trying to keep ourselves alive as not as people, but as scientists. And there are no clear decisions. Everyone chooses his own way, as far as I see it now. But if we speak about our case, I think our team was one of the pioneers in organizing the massive online events for Russian-speaking scholars in exile after the beginning of Putin's aggression against Ukraine. So we challenged a lot of things we were not prepared to. We needed to provide a selection of applications. We needed to follow the security checks. None of us knew how it was possible to do it. So right now, our team has deep knowledge about it. It has, of course, it has its own history of mistakes, but it also has a great experience. And a couple of months ago, we have noticed that our friends, our partner projects come to us and start asking questions. How should we do this? How should we do that? So we understood that probably our experience can be useful for others. And we started an initiative for our colleagues and friends. We offer everyone to come to us with their idea of their online seminar, maybe online conference. And we will be ready not only to answer the questions, we will be ready to prepare it. So we function not only as a team of scholars, we started to function as an instrument of organization of online events. Probably this is not a model, but this is a step for creation of a model, and probably this is a step to survival of our scientific community.
Thank you. And thank you also for underscoring the fact survival is first and foremost for the Russian-speaking community. We're starting to get a number of questions from the audience. I've got two more questions first, though, I'd like to ask the three of you, and then I'll switch to taking some audience questions. And Dr. Rubinsky and Dr. Zorn, you already touched on this a little bit, but so do you believe institutions of higher education in exile, whether, as we say, kind of quote, brick and mortar, actual institutions like European Humanities University is, or virtual, the two types, are they tenable long-term? If so, why or why not? And now you both have hinted that you think it actually is a good idea, even if the situation, normalizes in Belarus or elsewhere, that you should keep up, as you said, I believe, Dr. Rubinsky, one foot in one country and one in another. So do you think it is a good model long-term to kind of have a university in exile elsewhere, again, whether in actual physical or online, or is it something that should be phased out with time? And again, it's a question for all of you.
I can quickly answer. I think this is so much more than just university in exile. We are now talking about democracy in exile. So EHU is working very closely with Belarusian NGOs and the diaspora, which is in Lithuania, in Poland, and other countries, Belarusian diaspora, to create human capital, structural capital for future reforms of democratic Belarus when the moment comes. So I believe for any nation that is facing the autocratic regime and that makes people leave, one of the important activities that when they organize themselves as the democracy in exile is to have higher education institution that supports this development. So whether it's online or it's network, whether it's brick and mortar, it is important that you can have a place when young people get proper education. And what I believe is very important for us and for the Belarusians is that they get civic society focused education. So they, even if they end up, as Andrei said, in global corporations, they are with the mindset that even there, they should contribute somehow, having great job and great pay, to building civil society in their home country. So that's what we, the research that we do shows that we do achieve that. So the mindset of our graduates is very, very different from the mindset of Belarusian universities graduates, the values they have, and the career paths, and then critical thinking and things like that. So it's so much more than that. So I believe it's whenever it's possible for any nation under authoritarian threat, try to build education institution for your young generation. And as I can see, it will be possible for many to attract enough donor support to make it durable, sustainable. And I hope the Andrei Zorin efforts also attract enough support financially that it stays alive and contributes to future democratic Russia.
Thank you. Dr. Zorin, Dr. Rudenkin, would you like to add anything onto that?
Very little to add, because whatever you just said here, I can subscribe to every word which was said previously. Yes, absolutely so. Yeah, what was for us important, that we are not planning to predetermine the future trajectories of our students. Yeah, we're not saying them, we want you to work in the West or somewhere else, yeah, and or we train you here to return to Russia and build a new democratic Russia. What we are focused on is giving them tools to make a choice and to be able to decide for themselves what they really want to do, where they want to do it, and what are their goals, and to have, yeah, as Dr. Rubinsky said, yeah, independent and critical-minded, democratically European-oriented young generation. They are already that way, and that's why they are in diaspora now, protesting against the war and whatever. They are already moving in their directions, but we have to help them, to shape it, to help them, and to give them some ways of reorienting in this enormously challenging environment.
Thank you. Dr. Rudenkin, do you want to add anything?
I'm so impressed about the idea of democracy in exile. It's really poetic and impressive. I can say that, in my opinion, survival, functioning of communities of scholars, of students in exile, it's a very painful question for me, because probably the situation is better when we speak about the institutions. When I speak about communities, it's very difficult. The level of their activity mainly depends on the level of inspiration and activity of particular volunteers who create them. Sometimes these people receive money, but most of the times they don't. It's an additional work for them. It's very hard work, and it doesn't bring them much benefit. So it is easy. It's very easy to do it just because it's good. Probably the first year when you create it, but the longer you do it, the better you understand that you have your family, you have your scientific career, you have your plans, and you have thousands of problems you need to decide. So my experience of observations in this area allows me to make a conclusion that the first year of existing of these communities, most of the times is good. But when the situation comes to the second year or later, they challenge a choice. If they are ready to transform into institution, or if they are ready to disappear. Of course, disappearing is simpler for tired people. So I think that most of the communities we create in exile do not live long. The bad news is that it happens very often, because I can name at least 4 projects created by Russian scholars in exile after the beginning of the war in Ukraine, which no longer exist. The good news is that such initiatives appear not very often, but regularly. And disappearance of one project sometimes leads to creation of another project. That's my point.
Thank you. Thank you to all 3 of you for really, I think, elucidating what I think a lot of people assume was more of a simpler process, right? And you're bringing up so many different facets of this. I want to turn now, we've got a number of audience questions that have come in. And the three of you, please, anyone feel free to jump in and answer. The first question comes from Peter Knight. And he asks, can students in Georgia register in Dr. Zoran's university and take courses F2F and are online virtually? I have a Russian friend whose daughter fled to Georgia. Same question for Professor Rabinsky. And is instruction in Russian, Belarusian, and or English?
The answer is manifestly yes. I hope, if it is we have by now a BA program in liberal arts and sciences. If it's interested for any young person, you're with the instruction in mostly English, bit of Russian, and they're very welcome. We hope at some point we'll have more, maybe some MA programs, we hope, but that needs some work to continue. As we do not have a lot of funds now, it's a paid program. We hope for scholarships. We keep on applying for grants and for scholarships. We hope for them, but for the first year we were not able to provide anything, which cut the number of students, I think, by half. But we hope that would be possible as well in the near future. Yes, that is the plan, to have it. But now, yes, it's not expensive. Montenegro is not an expensive country, and for maintenance, and our fees are not huge. It's basically affordable, but still.
At EHU, we have about half of our students receive either full scholarship or 50% scholarship. So this is quite significant support from our donors. And we have instruction, which I would say it starts in Russian language with some Belarusian, and then over time we add more and more English. The problem is that when high school graduates come from Belarus and other countries, they don't know English well enough to start in English, but they are Russian speaking, all of them. So we begin in Russian, but our intention is to gradually increase the share, which is very small, but increase the share of the Russian language. And the major reason is that we would like to deal with the intensive Russification process going on in Belarus. So we'll be the only university in the world offering instruction in Belarusian. But we will keep the Russian-speaking environment at the EHU, because we get students also from other countries that are Russian-speaking, but also it's for many Belarusian students, this would also be a viable option. Yes.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Nina Rozhanovskaya. She asks, academic censorship and repression is more detrimental to some disciplines than to others. In Russia, gender studies took a major hit, while LGBTQ, queer studies, and certain aspects of World War II studies are now associated with legal risks. Do universities and scholars in exile try to compensate for that in any way? Can they, quote, save these disciplines for future Russia, Belarus, and provide some continuity in order to avoid having to rebuild those research schools from scratch in the future?
Just on the EHU side, we have a master program in gender studies. So it's very important for our donors to develop this program. Also, we're fully aware that the history that is taught in Belarus at high schools, at universities, is not the one that you would like young Belarusian population to know. So we are now in the process of accreditation of the history program that will be offered in Belarusian language and in English, so that they will be a real solid program in history that the citizens of Belarus can learn the history of the region and their own country in the way that should be taught. So we're trying to come up with programs to deal with this problem that was described in the question. Yes.
Yes, I can say also yes to this question. Our programs are just also in gestation period. Yeah, and we don't yet, or by now, we plan any specific program in gender or LGBT studies, but they will be a part of the programs we are doing in the different and general things. Yeah, there are the segment sections and modules planned about this.
Excellent. Next question comes from, hello, it's Jennifer Brush, former OSCE ambassador to Moldova. I have two questions. One of the stumbling blocks in the Transnistrian settlement process was, quote, nostrification of Transnistrian degrees. I think we came up with a clumsy process where individuals who wanted Moldovan degrees, which were somehow recognized by international institutions of higher learning, could submit their Transnistrian degrees and receive a duplicate Moldovan degree. Is nostrification a helpful process?
I mean, part of the European or EU quality assurance processes is the recognition of prior learning. So we have established a process of recognition of prior learning, and we look at the transcripts, we look at the learning outcomes based on the well-established procedures in the EU. So we apply the same standards, and so we are able to recognize prior learning, so that students who come advanced in the learning process don't have to start from scratch. It comes with the pain, as everybody knows. With it's not easy, but we're trying to help, especially when when you are forced to leave the university in autocratic country. It's good that you don't have to start from scratch, that you do have some credits that they can be recognized in the proper credit recognition process. So we do that at EHU, yes.
We hope to be able to do it. Yeah, and also, yeah, Theodore has also told us that it should be individual approach and so on and so forth. But the question was, yeah, as Transnistria was mentioned, whether you can, what can you do with the diploma of an unrecognized state, like Transnistria, and it's a huge problem, of course. Yeah, and it does not only depend on the position of the university, but the position of the government of the country where the university is located. Yeah, you can't break the laws. But what I can say, if there are bright young people escaping from repressions, will do for them whatever is technically able. But at this stage, I won't promise that we'll be able to fully recognize diplomas from Transnistria. The Moldovans' diplomas are, of course, no problem. We're very much welcoming anyone with a Moldovan diplomas, that's clear. But with Transnistria, it is a problem. But if there is a case to be made, yeah, for recognized as prior learning, whatever, yes, of course, we'll consider it very carefully and do whatever we can.
Excellent. And the second part of her question said, second, I think you're talking about solutions in Europe. Is there any role for American institutions of higher learning? And maybe we can broaden that for institutions of higher learning anywhere. We could bring in Australia, China. Do you see a role for other places that aren't encountering the same problems that a Belarus or elsewhere is having to help with the process that the three of you are furthering?
Well, very much so. Yeah, we hope to have partnerships. First of all, we are, as BA is concerned, we are establishing liberal arts model, yeah, which is an American model, basically, established in the United States, much more known, and we are hoping for the people who did it in Shaninka and in St. Petersburg, worked with Bard College in the United States, and had borrowed the approaches from United States. Yeah, and we hoped it, but doing something in United States is unimaginable for the very same reason as in UK, it's too expensive to think about anything possible in doing it's hugely expensive countries. Yeah, but any sort of cooperation with American universities would be enormously and incredibly beneficial. We have started negotiating with the Davis Center in Harvard, and yeah, they are already giving us some useful advice, and we hope that we'll can improve it. So yes, there is of course a place for such partnerships. Yeah, and Shaninka in Moscow had a huge network of international partnerships, mostly with British university. Theodore came from Manchester. Yeah, we had a partnership with Manchester University of Manchester, and as soon as we're settled, we hope to be able to restore them.
Let me just echo what Andrei has just said. EHU has worked with Bard College for a long time, and one of the results of this cooperation was our one of our top subjects, which is language and thinking, our seminars for the first and second year that formed the students in the critical minds. So it was developed with the strong help of Bard College. So it's a proof of very strong cooperation with American institution, of liberal arts institution, to help us to develop. So there's a room for American universities. We talking to a number of partners, number of projects. So we had a very good discussion at the Kennan Institute, how we can cooperate together, at Columbia University, at Yale. So there are many institutions interested who conduct area studies, or who found, for example, that Belarus became now very important part of the puzzle of the stability in the region. So there are many possible cooperations, and we're looking forward to having much more. So very good in the past with the Bard College, and many more coming in the future.
No, that's great. And there's another question that, builds on this. This comes from Carly Kehoe, professor of history in Canada. Is there a need for supervisors for upper year students from other academics around the world in specific areas as a voluntary support? I'm assuming you would all say yes, but maybe someone wants to answer like concretely, what kind of help would you like? It sounds like, offers of help from, in this case, Canada.
And of course, yes. I mean, that would be great for a student having, foreign supervisor or co-supervisor in the project. It would be great. We are moving from diploma thesis at the bachelor level to diploma projects, because now theses are written by ChatGPT in any language in 5 seconds. So students will do a group project, focus on achieving certain specific goals, hopefully advancing civil society and working with civil society partners. So, any foreign professors who would like to contribute to this work of students, especially in advancing civil society goals, they will be very welcome. And students' experience by working with foreign professor would be just great experience. So definitely yes.
Yes, the answer is an emphatic yes.
That's great. And another question that's kind of building on this, it comes from John DeBartolben. To all panelists, what can Western scholars do to support your efforts? To Dmitry Rudenkin, can Western scholars participate as audience to any of the online events of Open Bridge Lab? Do you have a public website? To Andrei Zorin, do you have any public website? So yeah, kind of what public facing materials do each of the three of you have where people can tap in and help?
Well, we have our website, we have our YouTube channel, and we have our Telegram channel. The only problem is that right now they are prepared only in Russian, because the initial audience of the project was Russian scholars. Right now, we have started work for translation, and I hope that in next months we will have English website and English YouTube channel, at least YouTube channel with English subtitles. But it is already possible to participate in our projects. We have received applications from our colleagues in the area of Russian studies, probably mostly because all of them know Russian. And they were guests at our conferences. They presented their papers. And it was very interesting for our audience, and it was very important for us, because I don't know if it is clear for scientific communities outside Russia, but one of the most painful questions after the immigration of Russian scholars was the fear of losing connections with world science. When we see foreign colleagues who attend our events, who write us letters, and who present their papers at our events, it is an important signal which we would not want to lose. it's a signal that we're still a part of the scientific community of the world. So we will be happy to see our participants from our other countries, and we will do everything we can to make it easier.
Thank you.
I think I can share the website with you, with the audience, but I remind you, it is right now. It is unfortunately only in Russian.
No, thank you, and thank you for mentioning that. We're nearing the end of our time. I'll let Dr. Zoran and Dr. Rabinsky answer quickly at this question about any kind of public-facing material. So if people want to follow up with do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, FLAS, Faculty of Liberal Arts and Sciences, by now has a Telegram channel, and we've already devised the general website for the Shannon Foundation, which will include separate website for our different projects. But due to our, constraints in manforce and finance, it's not yet online, with hope that within a couple of months, maybe early 2024, realistically, we'll be online and we'll have the full website giving this information. We're working on it very hard, and we hope that we absolutely see that it is necessary and it's the most essential part of the project.
I have a very short comment.
Can everyone?
EHU.LT, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Well, we are nearing that end of time here. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take the rest of the audience questions, but just maybe give each of the three of you maybe in a 60-second wrap up, if there's one final thing you'd like our audience to take away, kind of a parting message. And I'll start with you, Dr. Rabinsky, first.
I think my message would refer back to democracy in exile, that I would like international community to see what we are doing with our institutions. It's not focused only on providing education so that students get good employment. It's an important part of our work, because we want our graduates to make good money and find good jobs. But we are building democracy in exile, so a community of people devoted to making a change in their country of origin. So in our case, we contributed to building a community of Belarusian and Belarusian colleagues and friends and students that together can make a change. And we believe that this human capital that is accumulating will be fundamental to transform Belarus into a democratic country, future member of the European Union, when time is right. It may take a year, may take a few years, but we're ready to wait, ready to work, and build the capacities to make the transformation happen when the time is right. So this is a big effort. We're happy to do it, and we're counting on support of our foreign scholars, our donors, and colleagues to work together hand in hand to make that transition to democracy happen.
Thank you. Dr. Zoran, final comments.
Well, first of all, I would thank Kennan Institute for inviting us and for organizing this wonderful event. It's wonderful to meet colleagues, and for the listeners for asking questions, and especially of suggesting and asking the most useful question imaginable: how can we help? And I saw it in the chat. Yes, of course, there are many ways, and that's more than welcome. Spread the word about us, and we are in touch. We'll be happy to be in touch through our organizers who have all our emails. And any suggestions for help would be immensely appreciated. And thank you so much for being here, for listening to us.
Thank you. Dr. Rudenkin, final comments.
First of all, I can repeat that I'm very grateful for your invitation to be a participant of this panel discussion. It was a great honor for me. I can say that, in my opinion, there is no Russian science, there is no Belarusian science, there is no American science. The situation in the world demonstrates us that there is only one international science. And the most painful question that probably inspired this panel discussion is that is Russian science are Russian scientists in exile are capable to be a part of international science? My vision is yes, they can. But sometimes it is necessary to remind them about it. And I'm very grateful to you and your colleagues for your projects and for their influence on our community. This helps us to feel us a part of international science more. I apologize for absence of answers for the questions, but if you have any questions about Academic Bridges Lab, about our projects, if you have any offers, please feel free to contact me. It is easy to find me in Facebook and Telegram. I'm the only one there. Thank you.
No, thank you very much to all three of our guests for, again, fascinating histories of your respective movements that you are furthering. And thank you to our audience members for excellent questions. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.